Now we're on to the soil, where you're going to plant them. It's the first thing you should do is to find out what your pH is in your soil, and you can buy a little tester. Around 6.5, 7 is ideal, but don't be afraid if it goes higher. I did tests here 2 years ago now, where I had 3 big pots and put lime in it, and had a variation between 6.5 to 11, and planted the same tuber out of the same clump to see what effect it had. There is very little difference between the low one and the high one. The only difference was when we dug the tubers. The tubers that came from the higher test, they were a lot smoother in the actual texture on the outside of the tuber. As far as the growth concerned and the flower concerned, we couldn't any difference between them. So really don't be too worried about, as long as not it's below, as long as not below 6.5, then they don't like it then. Some areas are around different to others. Temperature and everything else comes into it, and with a mixture with your soil you're going to put them in. Here down here, because we've got a heavy clay down here, and the further you go north you get into a more of a sandy soil, and it's just the way Australia is. And tubers and dahlias will change from one area to the other. Sometimes only a few miles. I can't grow some dahlias here as others can grow them in Portland. Can grow them. So no matter what change of the soil here, it doesn't seem to make any difference. And yet, I guess that's just life. Anyhow, here we have a fernery that I done last year. I carted in sheep manure from out the feedlot and put in. Had brilliant growth, everything else, but when I went to dig the tubers, I found that I was having problems, and it's just too heavy. It's too heavy and cloddy. I've dug a bit up from down there, down the bottom end there. It seems to be heavier than what is up the top. So what I've done, as you can see, I've gone and put 30-40 mil of sand over that area, and I'm going to hoe it in. The sand will break it up and let the extra soil breathe, and the water to soak through. That's the soil there. If I reach down here, the top end where it should be, and you can see the difference in the two soils. One I've broken up. Although it's got worms in it, it's still too heavy. Whereas that's the way I want it. So you can see there. Now I'll break that up, hoe it up, and probably hoe it again to give it a good mix for this year. But it'll probably be better next year than this year, because the sand will actually be mixed a lot better to it. The other ferneries around the other side, they were all done the same way, because it's a bit hard to get any manure from and a mix from somewhere that it's completely even right through. And there was patches in those ferneries too that the same effect happened, and I just simply put sand on it and hoed it in. While we're here, this fernery here was put up for seed purposes as well as growing. As you'll see down the other end, there's 3 curtains, one going that way and 2 going that way. and it's open that end, but when the curtains come down, the whole 3 gardens that are in here are open to different directions. That is so the bees can't get through, and I have water lilies over the other side there, Fims down there, and semi-decks in here. So here's the curtain that comes down, and it's just simply screwed into the post, and it's bee-proof. Another one that comes down here and makes it into an apartment there, two smaller ones, a bigger lot up there, because you don't have so many water lilies or Fims. And this is open out here and open out there, so that the actual bees got to circulate and come in. They don't seem to do that, because when I put the seed out, where the tags are, it's usually straight to the tag where the type of flower or type of seed I've taken from. It goes right to the actual, right to the peg. So, and then the rest of them all the way around are the same. They're bigger, and each fernery has the same type of dahlia in it. Right, this is a green that we took earlier. It was one I forgot after I cut it and left it behind in the box over there, and I went back and was all withered up after 2 days, maybe 3 days, and I didn't think it'd grow, and to stand it up, was that wilty wouldn't stand up, so I put tags right around to hold the leaves up, and I put this over the top of it, like you see these ones, and pulled the top off it after a few days, and it was all wilty and still wasn't going any good, and it was in the road, so I wanted to shift it, and so it was in an old pot. I picked it up and it broke in half, and I noticed that the tip of it here was quite green, and so I repotted it, and there it is. From something I'd throw away, within 8 days it's got roots on it. So I think that might have been a fluke though. Now we got up here further, we got the greens under the lids, and they're only freshly been done, that lot. The mix is a little bit different when I first started. The first start I was using sand and coarse and fine sand mixed together, but I've changed to vermiculite and peat moss and sand, about a third of each, and yeah, they seem to stand up quite good. These are of course the ones you can't buy them that high. These are normal bins you buy, and I've re-put tags in them to get the height, to get enough air over the top of them so they won't hit the top. And here we have some of the roots on them, and as you can see, the roots come out through the pot, through the side of the pot, the peat pot, and that's why we use them. They are taken from here into another fernery around the other side, or out in the open, and they're put in the open in a box. These are, you've got to remember, have been under the lid, so they're a bit soft. So I'd take them out there for a week or so to harden off. Then they're planted direct into the ground. As you can see, you don't have to disturb them, they put straight in the ground. This dissolves away or rots away into the ground, and you're not disturbing your plant, and it's where it goes. Right, this is where I keep them in a box like this. The box has got dirt, topsoil in the, well, I'll say dirt, more mulch in the bottom of it, mulchy dirt, and they're placed on top of that. That is to keep them moist, and when the roots go through, they do go into it. And I just put them in here for a week or so and give them more water. They normally wilt a bit the first day you put them out here, then they just recover, and yeah, before they go out. Here's the seedlings that you've seen earlier raised in the trays. We've now planted them out. This has of course been rotary hoed up. There is fertiliser has been put in there because I put in here, I fertilised it before I rotary hoe it up, and as you can see the pieces still here. The seedlings are planted usually towards evening, because then you get a nice damp dew or air at night time, and helps them stand up. And most important of all, don't put too many in, they'll let them wilt. Give them a drink of water, do a few, keep giving them some water. Because they don't like getting dried out too much, and yeah, as you can see, there they are there. Right, we're back in the box again, where we put them in the box earlier in the year. Now it's time to take them out again. And as you can see, I've pulled a couple up here, and I want to explain to you something about these. Remember earlier we said about not cutting the tail off, leaving the tail, and they shoot, the roots come out the back, and that, as you can see. Now this leads further on when we talk about fertiliser. Some people dig a hole and put the fertiliser in the bottom of the hole. Now as you can see, the roots fit, they come out the back and they run that way, they don't go down. So if you put fertiliser in the bottom of the hole, the plant doesn't get any. It doesn't get washed in, it washes away from it. Put your fertiliser or mix it in the ground, that's another way of doing it, or put your fertiliser on top so the water washes it in down through your roots. Now, but at the same time, here's one here that's been cut when it was being dug. It's okay as long as that's dry. It's perfect. If that was a big long tuber like this, I would have cut it in half and let it dry off for a day or two and plant it. This, when the roots come out of this, it'll come out under here and not at the end, and that'll feed from here and not through the tuber. Often that, some people in the early days, that was the idea they used to bypass the tuber in case the tuber rotted. This one also has, to me, a fault. It has already got leaves on it. It's been out of the box, it's been up in the air and formed. Now I don't plant it with those leaves on it, I just simply cut it. There's a node there, I just chop it off there like that. It'll reshoot out of here, and away it goes. It'll be 2 shoots come out of that. If I was to plant that, it's inclined to sit there and do nothing. Here we have one slightly different. This one hasn't been come out of the top of the sawdust. It's still closed off, so it has not seen daylight. That's perfectly okay. You can plant that like that in the ground, and it'll keep going. But I still prefer to do this, because I'm not going to knock that off when I'm planting it. It'll send out, there's one already there, but it'll send out 2 shoots from here, and away it'll go. Once again, you'll see the roots out the back. Here's a perfect example here of the long tail and the roots coming out the side off the tails. See this? And here again.